All right, 1 second here. All right, we're going holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 17. Again, we're going holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 17, and we're verse 10. Pretty much finished up verse 10. Just want to mention one thing. From that, again, the Torah says, Ish ish mi beis Yisrael, min agar b'soichom, asher yochel kol dam, asati fanai b'nefesh ha'ocheles es adam, shurati osa min kerev. So here, again, the Torah says, whatever man, right, says ish ish, right, double language, we saw before, that be of the house of Israel, strange sojourn among you, that eats any blood, I'm going to cut my face, maybe even set my face against that soul that eats blood, I will cut them off from among his people. So, we pretty much spoke about the end of the verse, where the end of the verse says, I'm going to cut him off from among his people, right? Again, we mentioned last week that would tell me that this applies to Jews, not to non-Jews, right? Because there's a whole question before. The whole question before, it says, well, at the very beginning, it says, Ishish beis Israel, right? It says any Jew and a stranger, or are they translated here? Right, a stranger that sojourns among you. Right, seemingly it would mean that a non-Jew lives among you, also should be forbidden, right, to eat blood, even though we saw it's not the case. A non-Jew probably could eat blood, right? Nonetheless, God says, I'm going to set my face against you, and I'm going to cut you off from among my people. Right, literally, he'll be cut off among his people. So again, we saw pretty clear that that's referring to a Jew, right? Because the language itself says again, that that anyone who eats blood, God says, I'm going to set my face against you, and I will cut him off from among his people. Now, cut him off among his people. Simple explanation is talking about a Jew, right? I'm talking about a non-Jew. A non-Jew, desecrate. If they go against the no-hide laws, right? Some would be death penalty. Others not necessarily death penalty, right? But even if they transgress, non-Jew transgresses whatever it is, that's not a death penalty, doesn't mean they'll get spiritually cut off. It doesn't mean they'll lose their portion of the world to come. There are certain things they would lose their portion of the world to come, obviously not everything, right? So being spiritually cut off really is a reference to a Jew, not a non-Jew. Now, we mentioned also just, one other point here. In the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, the Orach Chaim says that, right, the whole question over here from the Medrash, what it means, right, amongst your people. Right, in other words, that you won't be clear. You won't be complete. Your people will not be complete. What does that mean? So there are going to be some people amongst the Jewish people cut off. Doesn't mean they'll die, right? They'll be spiritually cut off. They won't have a portion of the world to come. Now, that could also mean spiritually cut off means, yes, you lose your portion of the world to come. And someone asked us last week, what's the difference between being spiritually cut off and losing your portion of the world to come? It's really the same, right? But currently over here, if a person would desecrate Shabbos in public, right, he get killed and you get spiritually cut off. If a Jew ate chametz and any leavened product on Passover, right, he gets spiritually cut off. Many things. Person gets spiritually cut off. For means you don't have a portion of the world to come. But he says, what does this mean over here? Right? What does this mean? The fact that your people won't be whole. So says Orach Chaim HaKadosh, he says, I don't understand. I don't understand what it means. He says, if they're liable, because, Kol Yisrael Ravim said was that all Jews are intertwined, doesn't apply to any other nation. A Jew does something, the entire Jewish nation, gets punished. Some more, some less, depends who did it, when they did it, where they're holding in the world. So he says, either you tell me they're obligated because, we're all in the same boat, so to speak. all Jews are in the same boat, right? They either tell me that, right? So if that's true, why don't the Jews get wiped out over here for what they do? Yeah, that's one thing. And he says, even though I'm not talking about someone who's obligated, because because all Jews are intertwined. Even if you tell me they're not obligated because of that, maybe they didn't know, maybe they were under onus, right? It was against their will, they didn't have a choice, right? They couldn't stop it, whatever it is, right? So what's going on? So either you tell me they're all intertwined and they're guilty, right? They're guilty because of that. In other words, he would be guilty because of that. Everyone else is exempt, seemingly. Or you tell me it's not talking about someone, who's obligated, but something happened, right? They did something, let's say, out of their control, right? It was out of their control. Onus is what we will call it, right? It's out of their control. So if it's out of their control, they should be exempt, right? It's not their fault. A lot of things that can happen to a person, you're not necessarily liable for, right? You couldn't do anything about it, right? If you couldn't do anything about it, and really it was beyond your control, right? Well, say it's going to be exempt over here. So very interesting. He says, what's the intention over here? What does it mean again that God says, as Torah tells me, he's going to be cut off among his people? So he says, when you cut off a branch, right? You cut off a branch of a tree. When you cut off a branch of a tree, what does it do? It makes the tree stronger, right? Essentially, it makes the tree stronger, right? As it is known, he says. And that's what it says amongst your people, meaning that the evil parts of this branch won't cause damage, right? So therefore, God cuts it off. And whatever's left, that'll be whole, right? Very interesting. Yeah, why do I say very interesting? Because he's saying that if you have a branch, of a tree, it's rotting. Let's say, what do you do? What do you do to make the tree stronger? You cut the branch off. Very simple. You cut the branch. That's going to make the tree stronger, right? So too, over here, that there are going to be people not doing the right thing, right? Over here, let's say eating blood, right? They're not doing the right thing according to the Torah. So you might tell me, as we saw before, maybe the entire Jewish people are going to get punished over here. Maybe it's not going on an individual. Maybe it's going on the entire nation, right? Because there are definitely times the entire nation is going to get punished, right? Even if individuals do certain things. Seen that a number of times. We'll continue to see that, right? Throughout the Torah. That a few individuals can do things, or maybe a handful of individuals, a lot of people get killed. We saw about the sin of the golden calf. So the Arab mixed multitude, right? The converts either came out of Egypt or came from other places as well, right? So they made the sin of the golden calf. Now, sin of the golden calf, what were the repercussions? God says, I want to dwell amongst my people, right? I want to dwell amongst you. Exodus chapter 25, verse 8. Make me a Mishkan, make me a tabernacle so I can dwell there, right? Kabbalah 101, 101a. How do you put an omnipresent being in a box? Good question. But at the end of the day, God says, I dwell amongst you now because of what these people did. Then I'm going to wipe out everybody. Right? Again, collect the punishment. I'm going to wipe out everyone. So God says, God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, says to Moses, listen, I'll start with you. I'll wipe everyone else out. Right? What did Moshe Rabbeinu say? No, can't do it. Right? Not going to allow it to be done. Right? I'm not going to allow it. 1 second here. Not going to allow it to be done. Right? So therefore, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is the fact that God says, okay, right? Sorry, Moshe says you're not going to do that. So God says, well, if I dwell amongst the Jewish people, I'm going to wipe them all out. Very good. Moshe Rabbeinu says no, makes compromise. And the compromise is the fact that the entire nation, for all generations, right, at least till the Messiah comes, that there's going to be payback. is going to be payback for the entire nation over time. Right? It's kind of like, a person, ever get, anyone who ever got a mortgage, right? Buy a property, right? So you pay it over a longer time, right? You pay however much a month, but you got a long time to pay it, right? So here, God says, okay, I could wipe everyone out now, start from Moses, start the Jewish people from scratch, or I can give collective punishment over time, right? Over all the generations. So it won't be as bad, right? There'll be payback, but it won't be as bad. Right? So here, the Orach Chaim says, you're going to knock out these bad eggs, right? These bad branches, for the sake of the group. In other words, just like you take branches out that are bad, that are rotting, you take the branches out, strengthens the tree. So if God takes out, people are doing negative things within Judaism, it's going to strengthen everyone else. Now, what does this sound like? This does not sound, let's say what it doesn't sound like first. It definitely does not sound like God is saying, or the Orach Chaim is implying over here, that God is saying, I love every Jew. Right? I mean, he does, from from like a parent to a child, okay? Sometimes the parent has to punish, maybe, depending on what the child did. But over here, he's telling you, you get rid of these branches. These branches are going to go. Now, the number of ways of looking at this. Either you could say, right, you got Reform Jews, Conservative Jews, whatever, don't know what they're doing. Certainly, liable for whatever they do at a certain level, depending on what they do. Right, obviously, they intermarry, that's pretty severe. Ignorance isn't going to be bliss over here. But you get all these so-called movements, 70% or 60, 70% of Jews intermarried. So what's going to happen? Spiritually, they're wiped out. Spiritually, there's a limit here. What God's going to tolerate. So spiritually, he wipes them out. Give them plenty of money, let them do what they want, whatever, but they're not going to have a portion of the world to come. Right? So, someone said, but doesn't it say? It says in every Mishnah, in every chapter, in Pirkei Avos, right? At the very beginning, it's the last chapter in Sanhedrin. It says every Jew has a portion of the world to come. So someone says to me, very good, every person has a portion of the world to come. Okay. Yeah, so he said, your portion will just be bigger. That's what the Gemara says. Gemara goes on to list different people in different groups that lost their portion of the world to come. Not that you have a smaller portion, someone else will have a bigger portion. No, who says you're going to get there? Who, if you spit in God's face every second, why should you get there? You're going to say, well, I didn't, I never knew, I never learned this, that. Okay. Yeah, ignorance isn't necessarily bliss if you could have learned. So if someone did something, they didn't know what they were doing, depending on what it is, God's going to cut them a lot of slack, right? If, on the other hand, they do something, pretty severe, i.e. intermarriage, i.e. desecration of Shabbos in public, yeah, that's pretty severe. So how can it be? God's going to have mercy on that? Where's he going to have mercy? Someone intermarries, that generation's over, right? If the mother's not Jewish, that generation's finished, gone, spiritually wiped off. Yeah, so you get 60 to 70% of Jews doing this, and even if the child is born to a Jewish mother, so I think I mentioned last time, Pirkei Avos, that even if that's the case, the child's Jewish, no question. Child we hold, practically speaking, is Jewish. It's got a blemish on the soul. Now, there are rabbinic authorities hold that if that child comes back to Judaism, they go in front of a rabbinical court, they tell them to convert. They should go through conversion. Get that blemish off the soul, however that's going to work. But at the same time, what do I have? That the Gemara says a child from such a union is either called a puzzle, is blemished, is either called a mamzer, like a bastard child. Yeah, another opinion that child's a Jew. We hold, practically speaking, that child's a Jew. The other rabbis there don't, they're not saying this is complimentary, right? They're not saying, it's considered a bastard child, it's considered a blemish, right? Some people will just say, I only care that that child's going to be Jewish. That child's going to be Jewish. But guess what? There are issues. There are issues. So that's one way of looking at it. In other words, you gotta cut these people out, and that's going to make the tree stronger. Now, doesn't mean necessarily there's going to be a total Holocaust. All these people are going to die, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that all these intermarried people, you see, they live long lives or whatever. Doesn't necessarily mean that. But my Rebbe would say, look how they're living their lives. Really, they're already spiritually dead. Yeah, because they're not keeping Torah mitzvahs, they're doing very little, if anything. So because of that, they're only lacking burial. But you see, someone is liable to get spiritually cut off. We said spiritually cut off has a specific definition, right? It means either the person himself dies young, or his children die young, right, in his lifetime, or both. It also means they won't have a portion of the world to come. Now, being spiritually cut off, you see that someone who's spiritually cut off should die before the age of 60. Right? It's sort of the cutoff point. That's why some people make a l'chaim or make a little kiddush, because they hit the age of 60, they didn't die. Right? That if someone lives past the age of 60, it shows not liable for getting spiritually cut off. But, of course, it's always a but. My Rebbe would say, okay, you see spiritually that are liable to get spiritually cut off. So really, they should die younger. Now, if that's the case, how is it possible they're living long lives? They live 70, 75, 80, maybe longer. Right? What's going on? Should already be in the grave. So Rebbe answers, you have to see how they live their lives. Right? They don't keep Torah, they don't keep mitzvahs, they don't keep kosher, they do nothing. Right? They just about do nothing. Doesn't matter what they know, what they don't know, it's irrelevant. Yeah, what they do is basically nothing. So, therefore, even though they're still alive and they could live long lives, very good. What's the problem? But they're supposed to be spiritually cut off. Right? So he says, see how they live their lives. If they live their lives like an animal, right? That's what they do. They live their lives like animals. So he says, they live like an animal, they'll die like an animal. Yeah, no difference. They're just lacking burial right now. That's what it means also to be spiritually cut off. It means that you have no connection to Torah mitzvahs. Right? None. Person eats non-kosher, the Gemara says, it's going to be matamta misalev. It's going to cause them to be what? Apathetic. So someone who's apathetic, get them to change is like trying to start a Jeep with a 9-volt anchor, or a Humvee. I usually say a Humvee. Right? It's going to trying to take a Humvee and start it with a 9-volt. Not going to happen. Right? For sure not going to happen. So, therefore, they'll never wake up. Right? They'll never repent. So what does God do with such a person? So he just gives them more of what they have. Right? And they'll die whenever they die. But my Rebbe says, look how they're living their lives. It's like they're not in the world. Physically, they eat, they drink, they do other things. Very good. But how they live their lives? Eat, drink, and marry, lest tomorrow I die. That's the motto. Enjoy whatever I have now. Don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, King Solomon says in Proverbs. So if that's true, why would I live this restricted lifestyle? Why would I change doing this or doing that? Right? So that means the spiritually cut off. I'll give an example. People say it's not a good example. I think it's a good example. Someone once told me, you want to go to synagogue Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, so you got to pay a certain amount. Very good. Right? You have to have a ticket to get in. I don't know if every synagogue does this, but some definitely do. So a person told me, the more money you pay, the closer you get to the AC. Right? Usually Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur could be in September. Right? Not always, I'm not going to say it's always so cool. Right? It could be warm. Certainly here in Israel it's warm during that time. Yeah, but they said the more money you pay, the closer you get to the AC. Now, being a little bit cynical, I said, okay, so why don't you just take a portable air conditioner and borrow to it? They're like, that's very cynical. I said, you're right, it's very cynical. Well, you just told me the more money we pay, the closer we get to the AC. So what are you doing there? Are you there for the AC or not? Right? Are you there for the AC? Are you there to pray? Right? So someone's going to say, come on, You don't know what people are doing there. You don't know what's in their heart. At least they're there. Okay. So years ago, part of me would say no. Part of me would say, even if they're there, what's the point? Yeah. Are they really there to pray? Do they really understand about Yom Hadid? About Judgment Day? Who by fire, who by water? Who's going to make it through the year or not? Yeah. Are they really thinking that? I don't think so. Why are they there? I don't know. It's what their heart tells them to do. They should go to synagogue. Right? It's that pinto yid. It's a spark of a Jew. But a lot of people don't go to synagogue Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Certainly not in the later generation. Right? Previous generations, yeah. They still had a connection to Torah a little bit. Right? They still had a connection. Today, can't say that. Right? Today it's impossible to say. So, so based on that, I would say that it's like a cleansing process. Someone that's Rav Tauber, blessed memory, one Torah giant, the last generation, and someone said, look at all these people that, this person came back to Judaism, right, about tshuva, let's say, and they asked, like, either you have people that are going to be religious, right, they're going to be very strong religious, or ultra-Orthodox Jews, or they're going to disappear. There's nothing in between. Right? There's nothing in between. So this person asked, what's going to be in Olam Haba? Are they going to get anything in Olam Haba? He said, why should they? He said, it's a cleansing process right now. Right? Sad to say. I get this question all the time, like, my family's still Christians and still believing in JC. What's going to be with them? They're in serious trouble. That goes against the Noahide laws. That's death penalty. Yeah. If they repent, very good. If they don't repent. Yeah. If they don't repent, they're attached to him until they die. Or they believe in Buddhism or who knows what else. Other 80,000 religions out there. Right? Buddhism, Hinduism, other things. Death penalty. So most of the non-Jews out there ain't going to have a portion of the world to come. They're finished. Right? Most of the known world is going to be finished. Because the prophet said it's going to take 8 months in this war of Gog and Magog. It's going to take 8 months to bury everyone. Guess not talking nuclear. Yeah, people just disintegrate if it's nuclear. But a third are going to die. A third of the world's going to die in one shot. Yeah, a third is going to be injured, and a third is going to survive. Right? The injured is the whole question. If they survive, if they don't survive, how many survive? Right? That's what's supposed to be. At least, according to this. Who's going to be around? Anyone, the Oved Avodah Zarah, right, who is an idol worshiper, they're finished. They are totally finished. There's going to be nothing left of them. Right? Unless they repent before they die. Yeah. Isn't that sad? Yeah. I had someone say a long time ago, they said, why is it, the fault of all these people, in India that are worshiping cows? Why should they be wiped out? What do you mean? Goes against what God says. Can't be an idol worshiper. But isn't it sad? Sure it's sad. I don't know what the idea of worshiping a cow is or whatever, but it's sad that, a good part of the world is going to get wiped out. But they're brainwashed by society, you're right? Anyone who grew up in Mao's China be waving that red flag? Also brainwashed. Anyone who grew up in the former Soviet Union? Also brainwashed. Right? It's communist and whatever. All those atheists out there. And in America, also brainwashed. Totally brainwashed. Go have fun and this and that. Totally brainwashed. One of my kids was just in the States. Went to a public library. Public library. Told me the story over Shabbos. Yeah. Went to a public library. Now, I guess, happened to be Pride Week or whatever, wherever they were. Or maybe across the country. I don't know. But maybe find a book or two, read to my kids. Couldn't find anything. Anything. Yeah. It's pathetic. That's not an agenda. It's not brainwashing. Just as bad as people living in a hedonistic lifestyle. They don't care. Repercussions, not repercussions. They'll do what they want. Right? They'll do what they want. The recipe for disaster. And you see, the more you give into your desires, the worse it is. It says in Leviticus chapter 19, we'll get there one day. I don't know exactly when. Right, but the beginning of Leviticus chapter 19 was it states. It states by the Hashem al Moshe Lemor, that's verse 1. God said to Moshe, saying, Taber el kol adas b'nei Yisrael, ve'amart aleim kadoshim tiyu, ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokeichem. He says, speak to the Jewish people, right, the children of Israel, and say to them, be holy, because I am holy, I am the Lord your God. Very good. What does that mean? What does it mean to be holy? Two opinions, right? Probably a few more opinions here, right? Two main opinions, right? I got an opinion according to Rashi. What does Rashi say? Rashi says you want to be holy. What does it mean to be holy? Stay away from immorality, right? That's what Rashi says. Comes on the Ramban and says, you know what that means? You know what that means over here? It means, don't indulge. Don't indulge. What does that mean? He says, since you're allowed to eat and drink, so don't eat too much so you become a glutton, 50 pounds overweight or whatever, right? Or even though you're allowed to drink, don't become an alcoholic. Eating, drinking is permissible, but you want to be kadosh, you want to be holy, you got to know how to use it. You have to know how to use this world. See, for the Christians, this world basically is all evil, right? That's a good thing. Someone came to die for our sins. Very good. It's called pass the buck. According to Torah, it's all about what I do. It's all about repercussions for my actions, right? I got to take responsibility, right? But even in such a case, when you got different societies brainwashing their societies in different ways. You're in a communist country, it's atheism. You're in a free country, quote unquote, democracy, whatever you want to call it. It's about hedonism, the worship of the body. And the holiday of Hanukkah. People say, come on, the Greeks aren't here anymore. Not the same thing, but we live in a Greek world. What do the Greeks do? They worship the body. They brought a lot of things to the world, roads, education, different things. But what was their main thing? Worship of the body. Fulfilling desires of the body. That's what they brought to the world. People say, come on, all these holidays, that happened thousands of years ago, it's not relevant. Oh, yeah, it's relevant. It is relevant. Hanukkah doesn't apply to non-Jews. Very good. They weren't saved. Right? It was Jewish people that were saved. Very good. So non-Jew can say, but that doesn't apply to me. Okay, but what's the lesson? What's one of the lessons? One of the lessons is we live in these, we live in this society. It's all over. It's all over the world, these ideas. Worshipping the body. All these different things that are bad. Right? So seemingly that are bad. So, as I mentioned by Q&A, one of my Q&As last week, got to make it relevant. Got to make it relevant to your life. That is relevant. See what goes on? Literature they're trying to peddle off, in a library, for goodness sakes. Kids are going to come read this stuff. You want to read this to your kids? Johnny's got 2 fathers, Sally's got 3 mothers. I mean, it's crazy. Nothing clean. Nothing clean. Oh, but that's not brainwashing. That's, leaving their minds open till the brains fall on the floor. That's not an agenda. We want to make them more well-rounded. Trying against a 5-year-old, he's in the wrong body. Well, that's kind of problematic, right? I would think that's kind of problematic. But here, anyway, back to my point here, the Or Chaim HaKadosh says, in order that, what do? You take this branch that is rotten, you get rid of it. You cut it off. Why do you cut it off? It's rotten because you strengthen the tree. Now again, we're not advocating, and no one would advocate, that you're going down the street killing all these secular Jews. Obviously that's not going to be the way. God will take care of them, however he takes care of them. But what's he going to do? Eventually he's going to cut them off. And whoever's left, holding on to Torah and mitzvahs, will be left. Right? It's interesting. They'll say, well, I'll have a smaller portion of the world to come. Who says you're going to get there? Who in the world says you're going to get there? You don't keep anything. Why should God give you anything? Maybe you did 1 mitzvah in the world, right? So God has to reward you. Okay, there's reward and punishment. He has to reward you, but who said you're getting anything later? So God's going to cut them off. He's going to cut them off, and what's going to remain is a complete people, meaning people that are keeping Torah mitzvahs to the best of their ability. Yeah. At what level? Can't answer. Right? That I can't answer. Someone asked me last week, this question, what does a Noahide have to do to stay to survive in this world? What are they going to do to survive in this, and have portion of the world to come? We don't have a minimal level. I mean, the Ramchal discusses it in Derech Hashem, right? In the way of God, he says you're in this world to be tested. So you have to reach a basic level, some basic level, in order to have a portion of the world to come. But guess what? He doesn't tell you what. He doesn't tell you how to do it. He doesn't tell you what you're obligated to. What you have to do. Right? And how it all works out. But I would say that if you're holding by Torah mitzvahs at some level, that should save you. That should help you. Because the Gemara in Sanhedrin says, how are you going to be saved from the Mashiach? How are you going to be saved from the birth pains and coming of the Messiah? Right? That's going to be Torah. You're going to learn Torah, and you're going to do chesed. You're going to do acts of loving kindness. That's what's going to save a person. So if they're not holding by Torah and acts of loving kindness, why should they be saved? What's in it for them to be saved? Right? If I was God, I put on my funny George Burns glass, my funny mustache, I would say, are you serious? Right? I created mankind. I created the world. I created the Torah. I gave over the mitzvahs to Moses, passed it down. You didn't do anything. You didn't do a Passover Seder at the right time. You don't keep Shabbos. You're intermarried. Why in the world do you think you should be saved? And even if you're not intermarried, why should you be saved? So God says, you're right. Maybe, you gave charity. You helped somebody, okay? So I have to pay you back. I have to pay you back for the mitzvahs you've done. Very good. Yeah, but who says you're going to get to the game? Who says you're going to be in the next world? So therefore, says the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here, God's going to knock out these branches. He's going to knock them out. And then what's left is going to be something that's whole. So if you're holding my Torah mitzvahs, that's all that's going to be left. Same way everyone else should be wiped out. Now, what's the problem? What's the obvious question? The obvious question is, my Rebbe would say, we mentioned before, that if you're living in this world and these people deserve to be spiritually cut off because they desecrate Shabbos in public, because they ate chametz on Passover, they ate any leavened product on Passover, so they deserve to be spiritually cut off. But you see that they're living long lives. So if you see that they're living long lives, what's going on over here? How is this going to happen? Right? How is God going to knock them out? Right? In other words, how is he going to take the evil away and leave the Jewish people intact? The way we should be. Doing what we should be. Very good. What's going on? Because you see, people live long lives. Much longer lives than the age of 60. But I is supposed to be spiritually cut off. Some Rebbe Hansen says this many, many times. Many, many times throughout, a lot of the books that he wrote. Many, many times. These people, they live like animals, they die like animals, and that's it. So basically, their soul's already cut off. Since their soul's already cut off, doesn't matter they're alive, yapping away or whatever. All it means is they're lacking burial. That's it. So these people can't do anything in this world. They can't make or break anything in this world. They have to be knocked out. Right? The evil that they do has to be knocked out. Right? That branch has to be destroyed. But they're doing it, so you're going to say, but, it's still around, still doing things, could be still causing damage. Okay, but think about it. Spiritually speaking, these generations are wiped off the face of the map. They're not Jewish. Right? It's like, my own story. My mother should be well. Had 4 aunts and an uncle. She got 1 aunt left. She should be well, 98 years old. And I have an uncle just turned 90. Great uncle, just turned 90. Now, out of those 5 lines, my mother comes from one of them because my grandmother, was one of the sisters, right? So you got 3 out of those lines that are gone spiritually because of intermarriage. My mother's line goes through me. even though I got two brothers intermarried, goes through me, right? So, thank God, 7 kids, 9 grandkids, right? So that line's doing very well. And there's one other line that somebody had, or my great uncle had a son and 2 girls. Yeah, 2 girls intermarried. Right, 2 girls intermarried, but the kids are Jewish. Blemish on the soul, this, that, okay. But those kids are Jewish. Yeah. So that line is on life support. Another couple generations, that line will also be wiped out. And what's the only line left? Me. Right? There's nothing to brag about. But that's the only line that's gonna be left. It's gonna be left. Yeah. Out of 4 brothers out of 4 sisters and a brother. Spiritually speaking, for all those generations later, gonzo. Gonzo. Yeah. It's pretty miraculous. That generation married Jews. Generation after that, their kids didn't marry Jews. Some of them did, but a lot of them didn't. Right? So those generations wiped off the face of the map. Yeah. Now, they're still alive, they're still yapping around, still doing whatever they're doing. Okay. Doing whatever they're doing. But even if that's the case, that means the spiritual cut off. They're just lacking burial. Right? Doesn't matter how long they live their lives. They could live till 70, could live till 80, could live till longer. Yeah, it's not, we mentioned before, just keep in mind, see a lot of questions here, deal with them in a second, right? But keep in mind, the longer a person's alive in this world, the worse it is. Right? For some people. Right? Why do I say that? I say that because the longer they're alive, and they're not, not coming back to Torah mitzvahs, then the longer, and they keep still doing the same things or whatever they're doing, so they never get helped. Spiritually speaking, they're finished. Why is God giving them long life? The only answer I can say is whatever mitzvahs they've done in this world, God has to pay them. He has to give them reward for what they've done. That's not fair if he wouldn't. So he has to give them reward. Okay. So maybe someone will get rewarded with much longer life. Even if they get many more years on this earth, they ain't sitting pretty in the next world. Right? They shouldn't be sitting pretty in the next world. Yeah. But again, that's one possibility. God rewards them for whatever mitzvah they did. Okay. They get reward. Fine. Does that mean they're going to have a portion of the world to come? Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that by any stretch. Yeah. That, someone will say, well, you don't know. You're right. We don't know. But even the ones that somehow go to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So it could be God looks at them tremendously. At least I'm glad you came. At least I'm glad you're there. You showed up. Okay, you showed up to the wrong type of synagogue, but at least you showed up somewhere. Somewhere. Maybe God will have mercy on that. Maybe. Depends what's going on there. But again, people will hammer me and say, oh, you don't know what's in their heart. Maybe they're really there to pray. Maybe they're going to change. Maybe. Maybe a few of them will. Okay. Maybe. Yeah, I tend to doubt it. That's based on experience. Hard to imagine. Yeah, some people can get inspired, really want to look into Torah mitzvahs. Could be. Yeah. But if someone tells you, the more we pay, the closer we get to the AC, they're there for the AC. Or they're there to be entertained, or both. Someone told me, yeah, Rabbi comes up, speaks, this and that. He's got to entertain us. That's his job. He's got to make it relevant. Got to entertain, like a game show host. Put on his bow tie. Okay. Let's see if you get a portion of the world to come for 200 points. Yeah. Answer the following question. Yeah. Got to be an entertainer. Because if you're not an entertainer, you ain't going to last very long. You got to like you. You got to speak to people. You got to speak to where their heart is, different things. You're going to come on and say, come on, Torah's true. You got to keep Torah mitzvahs. There are repercussions for your actions. I can imagine that. Someone's going to actually, say that, then, you got to be better. You got to work harder. Jewish people have collected punishment. We got to, we got to work hard over here. I don't think anyone wants to hear that. Sorry, no secular Jew wants to hear that. They want to be entertained. They want fluff. Fluff is the big seller today. right? Someone said, "Oh, did you hear this person speak this and that?" I'm like, "Why?" I said, "I can't imagine. Um, I can't imagine what's going to be because this person's there entertained. And if he doesn't entertain, he's out of a job. But he's going to give mussar. He's going to tell them, there's judgment and there's a judge and all this ain't going to happen, right? Not going to happen. So he's there to make people feel good. Not going to tell them what they should do, what they shouldn't do, so to speak. Not going to tell them, it's all about judgment. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. But yeah, someone once, I don't know, sent me a video or something. Listen to someone speak. So I was like, okay, I'll entertain the possibility. Let's see what this person got to say. Yeah, 95% of it was fluff. It's fluff. Had an idea or two there. Okay. I'll give credit where it's due. Right? I'm in a relatively generous mood. I'll give a little bit of credit. But most of it was nothing. Spoke about nothing. You know what? Nothing sells. Remember the 80s, date myself here. TV show Seinfeld. What was that? What was that TV show about? Nothing. It was a show literally about nothing. How many awards did it get? How many people watched it? It's crazy. You want to say, you're hitting the lowest common denominator. You're selling to people that want to be sold this type of stuff. So what am I going to sell them? I'm going to sell them a show that has absolutely nothing to do with nothing. And that's going to sell. And guess what? It's sold. It's sold in a major way. No offense to any Seinfeld lovers out there. Whatever. To each their own. But it's something that's sold. Right? Right? And it's sold. And it's sold in a major way. Isn't that pathetic? You got to start theme, I don't know, family, this, I don't know, different things. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. Give it a little bit of substance. But if you're going to tell me the whole show is based on nothing, that's what the show is really based on. It's really nothing. And it was like a bestseller. It's a bestseller. The show's okay. People in a bar, that sold. You had aliens, that sold. You had other things, back in the day. Back in the day. Yeah. But a show about nothing and nothing sells and it sells in a major way. It's mind-boggling. Right? It's mind-boggling. Right? So here, again, I just wanted to make the point, which I think I made the point here, is that, God is going to knock out these bad branches. He's going to make them irrelevant. What does it mean irrelevant? He's going to make them irrelevant to the point where they're going to disappear, right? Essentially, they're in this world. And essentially, whatever they do, even if they make a lot of background noise, spiritually speaking, they're already in the grave. They're already buried in the grave. They're just lacking that burial. Yeah, that's what it is. Again, they could be alive and well. They could be alive and kicking, yapping away. Very good. Yeah, are they really alive? Person who's really alive was truly free. So I'm going to learn Torah. Mishnah Pirkei Avos says in Ethics for Our Fathers. Everyone else wants fantasy. Okay, right? Take fantasy. Fantasy sells. Fantasy sells in a major way. Could be a lot more interesting, easier to digest, sit there like a couch potato, right? Remember back in the day, people had the couch potatoes. God forbid you watch TV by yourself. Got this couch potato right here with me. Yeah? Got no one else, right? No one else around. I got my couch potato with me. Yeah, I digress here. But the point is, you want the Jewish people to be whole. How are they going to be whole? The only way they're going to be whole is you got people doing what God says. And what about people who don't do what God says? God's going to take care of them. Yeah. But he gives us he's talking about a tree over here. Say, if I got a rotten part of the tree, you knock out the rotten part. Now, what if they're still around? Well, the rotten part's still around. So you don't have to worry. God's going to take care of them. But again, what does that mean they're still around? It means they're here physically. Okay. Person can be here physically, but mentally, Torah-wise, they're gone to, right? They're not here, right? They're literally not here. Even if I see them, and I see how they act, and I see what they do, yeah, they're not here. You ever have a conversation with somebody like holding nowhere in the world, especially a secular Jew? Non-Jews are not even going to ask about. They're not interested. They're like, like I said, someone was back in the States, conversation she heard, and she saw people who just brained it. People who just brained it. Like I say, everybody, there are some thinkers out there, right? A few of them, right? Most people brained it. Eat to live, live to eat. That's the motto. Do what they do. Life has no meaning. It's very depressing. 100% very depressing, especially when you're much older, because you see everyone around you dying. Your time's going to come, so instead of thinking about what really matters, i.e. Torah, what are you thinking about? Where am I going for my next meal? What am I doing? Let's say I want to live the life that I want to live, and you can go to hell. Okay. We'll see who gets there first. Yeah. Okay. People don't want to be told what to do. They have no interest in being told what to do. They want to do what they want to do. They want to enjoy it, and they don't want to feel bad about it. Why should you make them feel bad about it? Yeah. I'll take a lot of questions here. Someone here mentions just the book of Numbers, right? Always according to their father's house. Father of the tribes, right? External. Right? External. When you talk about the tribes, who conveys who the tribe goes by? The father or the mother? Father. Something external. Who does the kid go after to say if he's Jewish? The mother. Right? Where in the Torah or Tanakh did it switch to according to the mother? Ezra. Think of the book of Ezra. Right? I'll get to the exact quote, but I think it's the book of Ezra. Right? That again, when it comes to the tribe, it's pretty clear. Many, many references. Yeah, it's pretty clear it goes according to the father. Right? In other words, it's something external. So something external, is for men, not necessarily for women. Now, so if a person's a Kohen, a Levite, or whatever tribe they're going to come from, goes to the father. Right? That you see in the book of Numbers like that. You see in other places also. It's very clear. Right? That's very clear. Now, where did it switch according to the mother? It didn't. Tribe always goes according to the father. The mother is where Judaism comes from, meaning if the mother's Jewish, the child's Jewish. Right? You see that in Psalms, by King David. I think you see it by Ezra as well. That the mother goes through. The child goes through the mother. The mother's Jewish, child's Jewish. I think King David says, son of your maidservants. Doesn't say of your father. His father was one of the few people in the world that only died because of Adam and Eve eating from the tree. Right? His father was totally righteous. So you probably should have said, or we would have thought, that King David would have said, the son of my father. Yeah, so commentaries learn the fact that he says that I'm the son of your maidservant, i.e. your mother, or my mother, shows the line goes to the mother. Yeah. But you had different things, not one thing. You didn't just have, according to the tribe, went according to the mother, never did. Right? That's something never happened. The tribe went according. Now, you could have the mother comes from one tribe, father comes from a different tribe. Okay. But again, that child, even though it comes from the mother, And that father is going to be for the father's tribe, not the mother's. That didn't change. That for sure didn't change. Right? The fact that we go after the mother when a child's born, right? That's a different issue. I would say, tongue in cheek, that, it's easy to know. It's easy to know who the mother is. It's very clear, usually, who the mother is. Is it clear who the father is? Now, if they're married, in general, we have a rule. We have a Talmudic dictum, and that is that usually the child is going to be the husband's child, usually, right? Because the mother's not fooling around with anyone else, right? We'll keep this clean, and therefore the assumption is the child is the son, or whatever, or the daughter is the child of that father, right? Of the husband. Now, a person can say, "Well, how do you know that for a fact?" We have a general rule. General rule, we say, Ro Bilu Zachar Abal. Majority of relations happens with the father, with the husband. That's a general rule. Now, a person can say, you don't know, she's not fooling around, she could have been with anybody, that child could have been someone else's. Could have been. Could have been. Yeah, we're not, Torah's not looking at it that way. Torah goes by majority over here. In many ways. Right? So therefore, if the woman's married, unless we know otherwise, right? In other words, she's married. The majority of the time she's with somebody, with her husband, if not all the time. Why would I assume? You know what happens when we make assumptions. But why would we assume she's fooling around with someone else? Right? If I would know that the marriage wasn't good, if you would know she was miserable and this and that, okay. But in general, if we don't know anything, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Okay. Since we don't know what goes behind closed doors, the assumption is that child is the father's child. It's the husband's child. Now, that being the case, is it always easy to know who the father is? Open relationships, let's say. So the answer is no. In general, we wouldn't know. Yeah. Now you get DNA testing so you can find out. Okay. Yeah. But back in the day, they didn't have that. They totally didn't have that. So how would you know who the father is? You would have no idea who the father is. If the woman's married, you would assume her husband is the father. That would be the assumption. If she's not married, anybody could have been the father. Right? You have no idea. You'll say, wow, she's been with this guy for 6 years, so probably it's his. Yeah, it's probably a good assumption. Probably a good assumption. I would agree. Yeah, is that definitive? Can I say that 100%? No. Could I say it 60%? I don't know. Right? Maybe. Maybe. Majority, you could say that would be the case, but you don't know. If she's married, the general rule is it's her husband's. Because we have no reason to think otherwise. Someone will say, you don't know for sure. Yeah. But what do the rabbis tell us? You go according to the majority. Who is she having relations with the majority of the time? Her husband. Unless you know otherwise. Right? That's the whole thing. If you know otherwise, different issue. If you know other things are going on, you can't say that. Can't necessarily say that. Right? But all things being equal, if I know nothing at all, and these people are married, the assumption is 100% that child's the husband's. I don't have to worry about anything else unless there's a doubt. Right? Just like someone, comes into synagogue and they're reading the Torah and he says, I'm a Kohen. Do they give him the 3rd degree? No. They'll accept him as a Kohen. Why? Because the person's not normally going to lie. That is a Kohen, something that someone knows. Now, if he starts talking, he says, wow, there was he was talking to someone, let's say, before they call him up. He says, yeah, well, my grandmother had this quasi-conversion and whatever, they're not going to call him up. At that point, they won't call him up. Why? Because now there's a doubt. I don't have to go looking for doubts. This is a mistake also. I've heard a number of times. Yeah, but I'll give an example. When I got married, so I had to I'd have a letter for the chief rabbinate that I was Jewish. So I had somebody, an Orthodox rabbi, not the chief rabbi knew who it was, chief rabbinate knew who it was, but it was an Orthodox rabbi, I knew 4 generations of my family. Yeah. So he wrote a letter attesting the fact that I know 4 generations of his family to be Jewish. So someone asked, well, you didn't go back 5 or 6 generations. Okay. He knows 4 generations to be Jewish. Right? He knows me, knew my father, knew my grandfather, knew my great-grandfather. Yeah. He wouldn't have known my great-great-grandfather was in the country. He was still in Europe or Russia. He was in Russia. Yeah. But even so, someone, so someone could ask, I didn't go 5, 6, 7 generations back. Well, I can't. I don't even think I can go that far back. Most people can't go that far back. So he said, well, how do you know you're really Jewish? Maybe someone had a quasi-conversion way back when. So maybe you're a non-Jew. Maybe all the blessings you're making are blessings in vain. Maybe. You know what the odds of that are? 0. You know how I know it's 0? Because we don't have to go that far. We don't have to go that far. You know what they say? If it's not broken, I don't have to fix it. If I understand clear as day that somebody, in my case, knows 4 generations, that's good enough proof. And we got plenty of people buried in Jewish cemeteries, generations. Yeah. So what about 5, 6, 7 generations back? What would be the logical assumption? What would be the logical assumption? Logical assumption is they're also Jewish. Why do I have to call into question? Something like I'm not even going to say so small of a chance. 0% chance. I have to dig to look for problems. Why? There's something called a chazaka, that you leave someone standing where they are. You don't look for problems, right? If the family's known to be Jewish, you don't look for problems. You want to look for problems, go ahead, but you don't. People are going to take you at face value. Now, if a person starts talking and they say, really, my family name is Jewish, checked out genealogy, my grandmother died, in her last breath was saying, I'm Jewish and your mother's Jewish, that makes you Jewish. Yeah, and then they die. Well, guess what? So now you come and you say, oh, I'm Jewish. How do you know you're Jewish? Well, how he brought up, it's brought up as a Christian, a Buddhist, or this or that. But my grandmother on my mother's side said she was Jewish. Ah, very good. Do you have any evidence? Do you have, let's say, a marriage document? Do you have buried in a Jewish cemetery? So no, they converted to Christianity, did this, whatever, we have no proof. But that's what she said as they're dying, on her deathbed. All right, it's happened to a lot of people. Not on their deathbed, before, whatever. Right? So, okay, that means the genealogy now has to be looked into. But they're not going to say 100%, grandmother's dying wish, to tell you that, you happen to be a Jew. What's any, rabbinical court going to do? They'll look into it. They'll look into the family, they'll look into genealogy. But at the end of the day, if they can't find enough proof, they're going to tell you to convert anyway. But that's where I already have an issue. I don't have something clear cut. If someone comes in and says they're a Jew, there's no questions asked. Why would I even think to start up with somebody? Why would I think to start up with someone? Their genealogy is intact. Again, if they started talking and they started saying, well, so where'd you come from? Only Jews play Jewish geography. I came from this place, whatever. So, well, not so many Jews there. A very small Jewish community where I grew up. Yeah, 50,000 Jews, 60,000 Jews. There were 3 Jews in my high school, right? Actually, 3 or 4. One of them I don't think is Jewish anyway, but his mother, I don't think his mother's Jewish. But in any case, yeah, it's a very small community, right? Very, very small community. It wasn't a religious community by any stretch, but at the end of the day, people know they're Jewish. Yeah, okay, some of them weren't Jewish because only the father's Jewish. I'm saying, if there's no question your mother's Jewish, yeah, and her mother was Jewish, and we know her mother was Jewish, that's it. We're not looking for problems. We're for sure not looking for. There are enough problems out there. We're not looking for problems. But some people would say, "Well, you didn't go far back enough." You know what the answer is? I don't have to go that far back. Absolutely don't have to go that far back. Right? No one's going to tell you to go that far back. Probably can't anyway. Right? Why in the world you bring up problems? Right? I'm not saying there would be. I'm not saying you would find problems. Right? Most likely you won't find any problems. Now, do I have to worry about it generations later? No. I don't have to worry about it. Why not? Because there's already enough proof right there. Maybe something happened 10 generations before. My grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bus. Yeah? That doesn't help. It's irrelevant. Because there are no issues. Since there are no issues, I don't have to go back 10 generations. I don't go back 7 generations. Yeah. So here, a person says the only example is associated with a man blaspheming God. His mother was Jewish, father was Egyptian. And he was thrown in no part of the tribes. Okay. Right. Right. Yeah, why didn't he have a part of the tribes? His father wasn't Jewish. Now, it could be, in such a case, father's not Jewish, go after the mother's tribe. Could be. Could be, but normally you don't. In this week's parsha, it talks about all the tribes. And who does it mention? You see any women mentioned? Doesn't say anything about women. Doesn't say anything about women. There is a whole discussion. The Gemara Megillah talks about Mordechai and where Mordechai comes from. They say, which tribe is he from? So there's a whole discrepancy exactly which tribe he came from. Some say, why does it say from this tribe and his mother was from that tribe, or whatever, different things. But in general, you go after the father. If the father's not Jewish, you got no tribe, right? And this question comes up, a lot also. And I'm going to put it to ease because I get this question a lot. Which tribe am I from? Right? An non-Jew asked me this. Which tribe am I from? I'm like, I have no idea. Nobody knows. Yeah. The only Jews that know what tribe they're from if they're a tribe of Levi, right? If they're a Levite or a Cohen. And that they know it's passed down generation to generation. I think I mentioned this last week. Right? That's passed down generation to generation. Everybody knows that they're a Cohen or not. Every other person who's not a Cohen or a Levite, which is most of the Jewish people today. Yeah. If everybody doesn't know which tribe, if everybody knows who's a Cohen or a Levite, right? That means everybody else is a Yisrael, right? Not a Cohen or a Levite, meaning, or not from the tribe of Levi, we'll say better. So based on that, people say, well, which tribe are you from? No idea. How are we going to figure that out? Who's going to come and tell us? Elijah the prophet. In the end of the day, it's whoever survives. They'll tell, okay, you're from this tribe, you're from that tribe, this, that. Yeah. It could be after resurrection also, right? If that even plays a role. But nobody knows. Nobody knows, again, unless you're a Cohen or a Levite. So, I'll put everyone to ease. It's not something that's relevant at all. Which tribe person's from, it doesn't really matter. Right? It's only going to matter much later, and and Elijah the prophet's going to sort it all out. How's he going to sort it out? Because he's a prophet, he'll tell you. Right? His mind will be working. God will tell him, okay, Benjamin, he's from tribe of Benjamin. He's from tribe of Judah. He's from tribe of whatever. That's it. Nobody knows. So if nobody knows, I wouldn't worry about it. Right? I wouldn't necessarily worry. It's an interesting question. Right? Interesting question. So that, you could also ask, well, a person converts, they all go to the same tribe. I don't think so. Definitely don't think so. Which tribe's going to be? Anybody's guess. Anybody's guess. But I'll tell you, it's not something to worry about. Plenty of other things to focus on. Right? Someone here says, not anyone knows from the tribe except for many Jewish families kept their heritage intact. No, that is incorrect. It's incorrect because the only people that know what tribe they're from are a Cohen or a Levite. Everyone else got lost. Everyone today, any single Jew who's really Jewish through their mother, nobody knows. No, it's not about records. Nobody has records. Nobody today has records of where tribe they're from. Nobody, right? Except if you're a Cohen or a Levite. Some people have an impeccable genealogy, so they have papers showing their Kohanim from way back. Okay? Yeah, I'm not going to say a lot of people do, some do. Yeah, but everybody else will never, they're not going to know. They're not going to know. It's not a question, they got, people fled, and they left Russia, they left Europe and this and that. They left their papers behind because they had to flee. They didn't have papers back then. They wouldn't have known anyway. The only people ever would have known what tribe they're from is if they're a Levi or a Kohen. Now, if they came from the tribe of Levi. Nobody else would ever know what tribe they're from. Something's been lost thousands of years. Lost. Nobody knows. Right? So it's not like, they kept their heritage intact. No. It's not a question of keeping the heritage intact or not. They don't know. They wouldn't know. They got lost. Yeah. Totally got lost. One second. That's why when a man returns to Judaism and he had children with a non-Jewish, children aren't Jewish, right? Goes after the mother. Right? But again, that's clear who the mother is. Right? It's clear. Now, if the mother's not Jewish, the kid's not Jewish. Now, the kid has to go through conversion. Now, if the mother converted, even if she was pregnant with a child, that child's going to be Jewish. That child will be Jewish. After the fact, if the mother converts, the child also has to convert. But the child can convert with the mother. And then after that, child be raised as a Jew. And then at the age of 12 or 13, they'll probably be asked, do they want to stay as a Jew or not? Right? They'll convert with the family or with the mother or whatever. So the question is, he had children with a non-Jew, the child isn't his. Right? Technically. By all, again, right? I didn't even get into this part. But biologically, it's their kid. Right? According to DNA, this non-Jew is technically, quote unquote, the father. He's the father, right? Let's say. Now, that being the case, if the child's a Jew, if the mother's Jewish, yeah, does that child have a spiritual connection to the father? And the answer is no. If a convert, someone who comes and converts, parents are non-Jews. Now, once they convert, are the parents still biological parents? Is they still alive? Yes. Still biological parents. Biological. Spiritually, are they their parents? No. Because a non-Jew that converts, we say is a cotton. Shenoladam is considered like a newborn baby. So the parents aren't really the parents. What about whole family that converts? Very good. Whole family converts, father, mother, are converts. Let's say they have children. Now, technically, if they're already converted, it's different. If they're already converted, it's different. If they weren't converted, they converted together, different issue. It's all a different issue. Right? So you could have kids, technically, their parents are their parents, but spiritually, they're not. Right? Spiritually, they're not. So the child belongs to the father, true. So it's the non-Jew's child, okay, biologically. Spiritually speaking, no connection. Spiritually speaking, say that 5 times fast, there's no connection. Right? Someone asks, is anyone on walking earth that never died but watch us? I don't know if they're watching us, but you had a handful of people that only died because Adam and Eve ate from the tree. Now, you had Elijah the prophet went up to heaven alive. A few people went into Gan Eden alive, right? Are they sitting there watching us now? I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing. I read this, can't, remember, watches are anonymous. I don't know. We have, I'll tell you like this, we have two angels follow us wherever we go, right? They record everything just like we're recording now, right? Other people around we don't see that are watching. I don't know, could be. Could be. I don't think that's what Elijah's doing. Elijah's pretty busy because, since he said something negative against the Jewish people, God sends them to every bris, every circumcision when a Jewish male is born. He sends them there. That's why they have the keys. They have the chair for Elijah the prophet. Yeah. So he's busy going every single bris all over the world every day. Keep him pretty busy. I'm sure it can keep him pretty busy. Is he doing other things? Could very well be. What's he doing? Can't answer. Right? That's it's above my pay grade. Other people that take someone like him. He went to heaven alive. Yeah, so is he back on this earth watching different things? It could be. Right? Could very well be, the Gemara talks about cases where someone came, this poor beggar came and, was asking for this and different things, and it was Elijah the prophet. So, he comes back and does different things that, God sent him to do or whatever. Okay, but any other beings around that we know about? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Yeah, a lot of questions here. Let me see. 1 second. If a man someone is considered to move to Israel, converting Judaism, but has a needy and alone mother, raised with much difficulty, what should he do? Ooh, good question. If there's no one else to take care of her, right? If there's no one else to take care of her, he's got a responsibility to take care of her, right? That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons a Jew is exempt from living in the land of Israel. That's exactly one of the reasons. We got to take care of his parents, right? If no one else take care of his parents. No matter they're needy, not needy, he's got an obligation. There's no one else around. He's got to take care of his parents. What's the other reason not to come to Israel? If you have better livelihood where you are, or you have better Torah learning, people could learn better outside of Israel, right? But this is definitely one of the reasons. This is definitely one of the reasons that a person would be exempt from coming to the land for exactly that reason, right? Taking care of parents. Yeah. So I would say all the more so. She raised you with great difficulty and self-sacrifice, 100%. 100% should take care of her in her old age. Right? Coming to Israel, secondary. Become secondary to that. Yeah, let me see. Let's see. Other questions here. I can get to it. If a person is not self-employed, a rabbi instead works as regular worker in a factory. Yeah, can be considered a slave? Slave is a specific thing. We're not slavery anymore. Slave is someone who stole, right? Someone who stole, and in order to get rehabilitated, you got to be usually sold to a Jewish owner, right? But that Jewish owner, can't make him clean a bathroom with a toothbrush. Got to treat him with respect. You got to give him the same food that they have. He's got to, if there's only one pillow, the slave gets the pillow, right, so to speak. But this has nothing to do with anything. Whether you're self-employed or not, this or that, you're a slave to your job, maybe. Yeah, but not a slave in general, right? You might be considered, plenty of people who work long hours and this and that. They're married to the job. Yeah, that's definitely true. It doesn't matter, no matter what they do. But I'm not even sure what the point of that is. How's he considered a slave? If you tell me he's considered a slave to his job, yeah. Tell me he's considered a slave according to the Torah, totally different thing. Totally different thing. What's the minimum amount of money required to move to Israel? I have no idea. Right? You asked me that before. I don't know. You want to come to Israel, you got to come with a lot of money. Right? Listen, it's expensive to live anywhere in the world. Israel, one of the probably Also one of the more expensive places to come. So what's the amount you have to have? I couldn't tell you. I'm not talking about even living an extravagant life. I would say, I'll say it like this. Someone who comes, they don't, my Rebbe would say, if you're going to come, you better figure out what you're going to do here to make money. Right? But you better come with money. Where are you going to live? Right? You got to live somewhere. Right? So, you're going to need money. How much money you need? Some people would say you should have at least 2-3 months saved up. Yeah, before you'd even consider coming. Now, some people come anyway, even if they don't have very little. Even if they have very little, how are they going to live? Yeah, big problem. Right? It's a very, very big problem. I don't think you got to be wealthy to come. Plenty of people do a tremendous amount of self-sacrifice to live here. But if you're going to come, you better make sure you get, you better make sure you get a way to make money. And not only that, you have money in your pocket, right? You should have enough money in your pocket, at least for a few months, at least till you find something, or make sure you find something before you come. Do Jews study Tanakh in yeshivas? Nope. They do not study Tanakh in yeshivas. Maybe some, Baal Tshuva yeshivas, maybe. In most mainstream yeshivas, they do not study Tanakh. Right? Some say it's very, so the question is, it's very hard to understand the prophets, right? Not only that, a lot of times, some of the prophets seem to contradict the Torah. So kids learn it when they're much younger. They're given simple explanations. But a lot of people don't learn it for that reason. It's hard. It's a hard thing to learn. I think it's very rich. It's it's based on what the Torah is. What the prophets say. I think people should learn it, but it's not going to be part of the curriculum. Right? The main part of the curriculum in yeshivas is learning Gemara. Right? For men, certainly learning Gemara. And all the commentaries in Jewish law. That's the main thing. Musar also, maybe you spend 20 minutes, half an hour learning ethics, learning Musar, but otherwise, you want to learn Jewish philosophy on your own time. You want to learn Tanakh on your own time, right? But that's not part of the curriculum. And it won't be part of the curriculum, right? Again, there are places where people have, limited background, certainly less background. So yeah, they may incorporate a class like that, right? But that's a different type of yeshiva. Chumash, same thing. It's brought down. If you want to have fear of heaven, learn Chumash and Rashi. Learn Rashi on the Parsha. How many people really read Rashi and learn it well? Learning Chumash is the problem. People don't learn it. Yeah, maybe when they're younger, maybe they learn it more. People don't know Chumash. They don't. Plenty of things about Chumash they don't know. Let me see other questions here. Well, he was Jewish, right? Strong reaction. Okay. They're not anything. His mother, keep in mind, he's in the palace of the king. Now, everyone knew. It's kind of ironic. Everybody knew it was a Jew that should have killed him. But who took him in? Pharaoh's daughter. Right? But didn't Pharaoh know he had a Jew right in his midst? Good question. Should have known. Even his mother was there to nurse him. Very good. Yeah. But he knew he was a Jew. He knew for sure that he was a Jew. That there was no question. Right? That was no question. And that's when, he felt the pain of his brothers when he killed this Egyptian man, right? With the name of God, killed him and, whatever, but he had an affinity for his family, for his people, right? So to speak. Someone asked during the time of the silent, the dead are resurrected. It's going to be after that, right? It's going to be after the time, as far as we understand, it's after the time that the Messiah comes. Resurrection is going to come later, according to many opinions. The ones in Israel are resurrected first, right? They are going to be resurrected first, right? Great rabbis of the generation will be resurrected before that, right? Right before. But, people in Israel, I think, get resurrected first, right? Does that also mean have Israel in our heart? No, that means nothing. Having Israel in your heart, people say, or I like to say, there's some people that we call cardiac Jews. They're Jewish in their hearts, as we'd say in Boston. They're Jewish in their hearts. You know what that means? Zero. Goose egg. You can be as Jewish as you want in your heart. If you don't keep Torah mitzvahs, it doesn't mean you're not a Jew per se, unless you do things that you lose your status of a Jew unless you repent. But being Jewish in your heart means zero. Now, if a Jew is actually a Jew, that's a different issue. Now, what they do with that Judaism and what they do is a different, that's a whole different thing, right? But a non-Jew, I've heard this many times, many, many times. People say I'm more Jewish than most Jews, and I feel like I'm a Jew in my heart. Okay. Yeah. I would say, no offense. I'm sure people are going to get offended when I say this, but it doesn't matter what, we're going to give a rat's tail what's in your heart. Doesn't matter what's in your heart. In your heart doesn't change the fact whether you're Jew or not. Does not change anything. It's good. You want to identify with the Jewish people. You want to work hard towards conversion. Very good. Up until that time you go in front of a rabbinical court in the mikveh, guess what? You can still eat shrimp. And then the rabbinical court will say, day before you go to the mikveh, let it rip. You want to eat shrimp? You want to do this? Whatever, it's permissible. I wouldn't tell anyone to necessarily do that, but it's permissible. American would say, they go to the mikveh, I go, no. So they're not Jewish. Up until that second, right? Even though they've been keeping Torah mitzvahs for a long time. Very good. They can say, I'm very Jewish. I'm more Jewish than most Jews. That doesn't mean anything. I heard someone say, my kids get up get up early and they learn and they pray and they this and that. And they won't convert us because I don't live in a Jewish community and blah, blah, like all these different things. Yeah. This person copped such an attitude. And then they said, we're doing so much more than Jews, blah, blah, blah. And look at all the gays in Tel Aviv. Yeah. So what does that do with anything? They got a lot of problems. Okay. And they happen to be Jews, even worse. Yeah. And they live in the land of Israel, even worse. If that's what they're doing. Yeah. What does that have to do with the fact that you may, keep Torah mitzvahs more than they do? Right? And you may be, more dedicated than they are in their Judaism. Well, what does that matter? That we should convert you much quicker. We should bend the rules. Okay. We should make it so easy. Okay. What does one thing have to do with another? The fact that they can't move, I understand it's a problem. It's going to be a problem for most people. You got to get out of Dodge at some point. Yeah. In order to convert. However long it takes, doesn't matter, but that's what you have to do. That's, you have to move, period. You got to move at some point. Now, you can be keeping Torah mitzvahs and doing different things, right? What you're obligated to do or what you will be obligated to do. So that's very good. Now, you can feel good in your heart. You can feel you're doing God's will. You can always feel I need to do more and I need to work harder, blah, blah, blah. Very good. But in general, what a person feels in their hearts, even if they're going in the right direction, 100% irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Personally, I'll make it a little more graphic, right? And people can really hate me. You go in front of a rabbinical court, tell them that. I feel so Jewish in my heart and this and that. They are not going to be impressed. They're going to tell you, get over it. Maybe, I don't know, you ate some anchovies, you got, I don't know. Who knows what? You have heartburn. Who knows? Yeah, but I really feel, okay, you can feel whatever you want. Yeah, it's going to stick. Someone asked me recently, what's the percentage of converts that after they convert actually, stay Jewish? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I haven't had any of my students gone off afterwards, right? That's a good sign by me, right? But it doesn't mean people can't. And I've heard stories of people who've gone off afterwards, not, at some point. I'm not saying straight away, but, whatever it may be, right? So here, the point is that who's going to get resurrected first? Whoever lives in Israel. That nothing to do with circumcised heart, not circumcised heart. God doesn't really care at this point what's in your heart. He cares where you are, right? So, that's why some people say I'd rather, live in Israel because when the Messiah comes and all that, if I get out, for resurrection, I don't have a far walk. I don't have to go through all these tunnels and different things in order to get to Israel, right? However that's going to work. So that's literal. That we take literally. You got to be in Israel, right? You got to You got to be in Israel. There's a lot of talk about Yovel today, kept or today. We don't keep Yovel today. Yovel is the 49th year, Jubilee year. Yeah, we don't have it. We have the we have the sabbatical year. Jubilee year, we don't have. That's why there's no such thing as a Ger Toshav today. Right? A non-Jew lives amongst the Jews, keeps the Noahide laws. No such thing. So anyone who's going to stay in Noahide, wants to be a Noahide, does not want to convert, which, again, we're not looking for converts per se. Right? But if they want to stay in Noahide, there is no obligation whatsoever. Let me repeat that. There's no obligation whatsoever. Let me repeat that again. There's no obligation whatsoever to go in front of a rabbinical court and declare that you're taking on the Noahide laws. You want to, you can. Yeah. A Ger Toshav, different. They have an obligation. But Ger Toshav is dependent on what? It's dependent on the Jubilee year. We don't have a Jubilee year, so there's no Ger Toshav. So the Rambam over there, even though someone totally misquoted it, yeah, the Rambam says, says a Ger Toshav. When the Rambam says a Ger Toshav, it's talking about in the Jubilee year. That he has to go in front of a rabbinical court. He has to go in front of a rabbinical court. It's talking about a Ger Toshav. It's not talking about a Noahide. Now, if a Noahide wants to, okay. Not worth very much, but they could. They don't even have to do that. They can go in front of two witnesses and declare they're taking on the Noahide laws. Okay? Now, me personally, the only reason someone would do it makes them feel good. Okay? You get a plaque. You get a piece of paper. You want to put it in a frame, put it on your wall. Okay. Right? It shows that you're taking things, seriously. To me, I could use that piece of paper for toilet paper. No offense. That's what it's worth. Because there's no Ger Toshav today. I don't care what anybody says. There's no Ger Toshav today. And the person who read the Rambam, very funny, chastised them. And you can see on the clip that he's quoting from the Rambam and he says Ger Toshav. The Rambam, if you can read Hebrew, says Ger Toshav. Doesn't say Noahide. It says Ger Toshav. So they got upset at me for saying this piece of paper is worth toilet paper. And I turned around and said, you lied to everybody. I said, you quoted this Rambam and misquoted it. It doesn't say Noahide. I can read it also. Doesn't say Noahide. It says Ger Toshav. So you want me to, say a little bit lighter that, people want to do it. They can, this, that, it's too strong. All right. I might grant you that. But you come out and say that you misquoted it. And that you are misleading people, telling them that they have to go to rabbinical court in order to be a Noahide. Not true. That is an absolute lie. Because the Rambam only says who has to go in front of rabbinical court to declare themselves a Noahide. Who does he say it's referring to? A Ger Toshav. He does not say Noahide. Does this person ever make a public statement against it? No. They only, came out against me. Oh, you can't say that. It's too strong. Again, if somebody wants to do it, they want to go in front of rabbinical court, no obligations, only applies to a Ger Toshav. And it doesn't apply today because Ger Toshav is dependent on Jubilee year. Right? Everyone agrees with that. You want to go and do that. Go in front of rabbinical court, get a piece of paper, put it on your shelf, put it on your wall, put a nice frame on it. Okay. Person can do it. Make you feel better, make you feel more committed. Okay. Beyond that, does that mean anything? If you walk into rabbinical, let me make it even a little more graphic. You walk into rabbinical court, you show them the plaque. You show them this frame. This thing you got framed. You say, look, I became a Noahide. Now I want to go through conversion, but I got the piece of paper. Thank you very much. Take a bow. They're not going to be impressed. They're not going to be impressed. I mean, they may show they're impressed. Maybe. But for goodness sakes, it's talking about a Ger Toshav. For someone to come and say, yeah, it's a good thing, you should do it. Okay, you want to do it, do it. Not making money from it. Okay. If that'd be the case, that'd be a different issue. That's the whole gimmick. Get people to pay something in order to be a Ger Toshav when you don't have to do it. And there's no such thing today. That's kind of foolish. Yeah. That's why it's not worth the piece of paper it's written on. But if someone who wants to do it, They'll back me in a corner. Can they do it? They can do it. Should they do it? It's up to them. Makes them feel better? Okay. Is it a good thing for them to go in front of other people and declare that they're taking on the no-hide laws? Yes. It's a good thing. Obligated? No. But it's a good thing. Is it even better if they go in front of a rabbinical court? I don't know. I don't know if it's that much better. But if a person's going to do it and they feel good about it, so let them feel good about it. I am belittling it because people make a much bigger deal than what it is. I want to make sure people stay in the straight and narrow path. Again, can they do it? Yes. Are they obligated? The only person obligated to be a Ger Toshav. Is there a Ger Toshav today? No. There's no Ger Toshav. The person who said it's Ger Toshav is a liar. That said it's no, it's not true. The Rambam doesn't say that. No Rambam says that. The Rambam says the Ger Toshav. So what's it talking about? A Ger Toshav. Ger Toshav apply today? No. Don't have a Jubilee year. Does not apply. So I chastised this person. I said, go back and go make a video. I don't care who you do it with. Go make a video and say it's not talking about an Ohad. And it's talking about a Ger Toshav. There was never any other statement made like that. No, I got hammered because I came out too strong. This person lied to everybody. Lied in his t-shirt. Let me ask a question. Someone's giving a class. Yeah? Someone's giving a class in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people. Yeah? How should a person be dressed? How do you think a person should they be in a tuxedo? No. A three-piece suit? I don't think so. Maybe wear a tie. Maybe. A lot of people don't wear ties, right? They're very casual. So let me ask you, talking to these people all over the world, how do you wear a t-shirt? How in the world you're gonna say so the person feels comfortable wearing a t-shirt? Seriously? If I wore one of my Patriots t-shirts right now, or my Celtics championship t-shirts, or whatever, people would be so impressed with me. They're gonna say, wow, he's teaching such great Torah. He's teaching such unbelievable Torah. And he's so hip, he's got a Patriots championship t-shirt. Are you serious? So I use them to work out in. I use them to go to the beach. Very good. I sit here with a t-shirt giving a class, speaking Torah. That's respectful. No, I just come out too strong. It's my venting part here. I come out way too strong. I said, we're toilet paper, and you're coming out in a t-shirt. You're coming out in a t-shirt like you're in pajamas. That's how you want to give class, in pajamas? Okay. Yeah, but I'm the one that's going to take flag. Yeah. Is there a yeshiva for older women? Yes. There definitely is. Right? There are a few. Few definitely like that, take older people, younger people. But definitely for women. There are schools for women. And they'll certainly take older people. Someone here meant, I maybe said in the heart, I meant practice correctly doing the mitzvahs. Okay, wouldn't misbehavior. Sorry, 1 second. Wouldn't misbehavior just poison us? Sure. Right? Think about it. If a person can learn a lot of Torah, but if their character traits are bad, what's the Torah worth? Gemara in Chagiga says you want to learn by someone, you have to be seen in their eyes as as an angel. Now, it doesn't mean people are perfect, but if you don't see the person you're learning by as an angel, you can't learn by them. So how come people can say things and do things, go against Torah? Yeah, it's a problem. Right? It's very much contradiction in terms. Right? At the same time, we have to try and be impeccable as much as we can. But, if you see people do underhanded things, calls into question the Torah they're learning. Right? It's no question. Let me see. If a person was created to study Torah, why their eyes hurt? Because Torah weakens a person. When you're looking at text at small print, and you're hunched over doing that hours upon hours a day, it can weaken the body, right? It can weaken the eyes, it can weaken the body. right? But you have to keep in mind, the Gemara says clear, when a person learns Torah, you're exerting all your brain power. We only maximize, I think, 3%. Since we only maximize 3%, you know, you gotta work hard. When you work hard, your brain hurts. When your brain hurts from thinking so much, it makes you tired. Right? Someone asks, Ramil says Ethiopians are not Jews. So New York Times propaganda. Yeah, there's an issue with Ethiopians. What's the issue? The issue is there's certain mitzvahs they didn't have. Now, if you say they're Jews, some of the mitzvahs they didn't have were marriage and divorce laws, according to the Torah. So if they didn't have divorce laws, i.e., if someone got divorced, they didn't give a bill of divorce, they got married, right? They didn't give a Jewish bill of divorce, they got married and have kids, all those kids are mamzers. They're all, you know, they're all quote unquote bastard children. They can only marry someone of that union or a convert. Now, if you say that they're Jewish, you got a major problem with their lines, with their genealogy. Major problem. Right? So better let them go through conversion. 100% let them go through conversion. Right? Most rabbinical authorities hold that. They have to go through conversion. They're not Jewish. Because they, you know, a lot of things they intermix with Christians there and whatever. They're not considered Jews, in short. Right? The chief rabbinate here in Israel, because of certain rabbinic authority, you know, that they listen to, held the Ethiopians are Jews. Okay? Right? It's a minority opinion. Everyone else holds that they're non-Jews. And they should go through conversion. 100% they should go through conversion. So they don't have any issues. Yeah. Problem. Definite problem. So Rabbi Miller is not, blessed memory, is not in the minority by any stretch. Majority of rabbinic authorities hold Ethiopians are not Jews because of different things, and they have to go through conversion. The Goyim think that way today, yes. The vast majority of rabbinic authorities today hold Ethiopians are not Jewish. There's, you know, here in Israel, there's a minority opinion. They want us to say it's a minority opinion, but again, chief rabbinate holds they don't have to convert. Right? They don't have to convert. Just about everybody else holds they do. Right? So that is a minority opinion that they are Jews, but we hold that they're not. All things that are Jews are not Jews. Forget about it. Right? Is there a way to interact with our angels? Nope. Right? You got two angels following you everywhere you go. No way to interact with them. You'll never see them. You'll never know they're there. You know, no footprints in the jelly. You know, in Jello in your fridge. You won't know that they're there. You will not know that you're there. Yeah, let me see. Other questions here. Should we be learning the depth of Noahide laws while going through conversion class? Good to know. Good to know what they are. You know, for sure. You know, do you have to? No. You don't have to. I think it's good to know what they are, but not, you know, you're not certainly not obligated to. So do we die for a few seconds if we're alive during the resurrection? No, everyone's going to die. Everyone for sure is going to die. And even if, let's say, someone's born right before the time of resurrection, they're also going to die. Right? They're also going to die, and if they merit to get resurrected, they do. But everyone's going to die. So, again, it depends. You know, you're not going to say a person died, 500 years ago, they're going to die for a few seconds. I mean, resurrection comes later. Resurrection comes after coming the Messiah. Could be resurrection comes when the world gets destroyed. The world's only going to be here for 6,000 years. So another 200 some odd years. So Gemara says there's going to be, 1,000 years of, I don't know, I guess desolation. God's going to rebuild the world. And then after that be resurrection. Right? So it comes much later. It's going to come seemingly much later. So even if someone was born right before the Messiah comes, let's say, so that person will have to die, right, at some point before resurrection, right? Everyone's going to have to die, right? I think even the Messiah dies as well. He's also going to die, right? But obviously, resurrection comes, should be able to get up, right? Not everyone's going to get up at resurrection. Nobody knows who's going to get up or not. One second. We're allowed to strike a pet dog for attacking a pet kitten. That causing unnecessary harm. I don't think unnecessary harm. Unnecessary harm means abuse. Hitting a dog to educate it, not to bite or whatever. That's not. That's not. I wouldn't say that's considered abuse, right? I mean, if you're sitting there smacking it, and really punishing it, then yeah, right. There's a limit. What's the limit? Listen, you can hit it here and there, to stop what it's doing, right? But you got to be careful, otherwise, that would be tsar bar chaim, right? Causing danger, causing affliction, right? To an animal. So trying to educate it by smacking it, yeah, you could do that, right? But again, it can't be excessive. What's the level of excessive? Good question, right? But again, you smack it here and there, it's not excessive. That's not considered excessive. If you injure it, or you like throw it around and like, seriously wound it, yeah, that's a bit much. Smacking it, to stop it, that would not come under this category. Again, even if we say it's on the Torah level that you're not allowed to abuse animals, that's not abuse. We wouldn't say that's abuse. I don't know what today people would say. I wouldn't call it abuse, right? You're stopping it from attacking another animal. That's saving the other animals, helping the other animals. That's not abuse. What does it mean that 7 shepherds of Israel will judge Esau's mountains? I know it's a good question. You have to show me a quote on that. I'll look it up. Why are there so many non-observant Jews? Why do you think? People came to America. When they came to America, they didn't want an old religion. Old religion they got persecuted for. Right? They got persecuted for being a Jew, so they threw their tefillin overboard. They didn't want to have anything to do with Judaism. Right? They wanted an easier life. So beginning 1900s, right? Jews started trickling into America. Yeah, they wanted to give their kids, a better life, than certainly that they had. So they gave them a little bit of Judaism, gave them a lot of material things, and that's why you have so many non-observant Jews. Not only that, you have some Jews that, first of all, it was hard. It was hard to make a living in the States back then because you had to work on Shabbos, right? So if you were an Orthodox Jew, every week you got a pink slip, you got fired, so to speak. So some Jews were very strong. They were able to pass that down to their kids. Other Jews, kept telling their kids, it's so hard to be a Jew. It's so hard to be a Jew. So what happened? Kids didn't want a part of it, right? Makes sense. If it's so hard to be a Jew, why'd I choose that? So I'll just choose not to be a Jew, right? So that was the beginning of the 20th century. Jews were coming, being persecuted. So they wanted to go to a place where they weren't going to be persecuted, but not being persecuted over here means they don't want to have anything to do with Torah mitzvahs, right? And that's the whole knock against, quote unquote, founding state of Israel. They wanted a state of Jews, not a Jewish state, not a real Jewish state, not a Torah state. You can read Herzl Schmerzel's book, The Zionist State. He wouldn't have cared if he got Argentina or Uganda, right? But they didn't want to have a state of Jews. And they could have ransomed, my Rebbe brought this on last week, they could have ransomed, tens of thousands of Jews, saved Jews in Europe. They didn't want to. They had money. They could have done it, right? They could have made a deal. They weren't interested. Imagine, Hitler's cronies, Yimach Shemoy V'zichro, they all rot wherever they are, right? They could have made all kinds of deals, yeah, to save thousands of Jews. Imagine, these Rishonim, these evil people, and they say, see, your people don't even want to save your own people. There's so much blood on their hands, these Zionists. So much blood on their hands. They had plenty of money. They had a lot of money to save people. Why didn't they save them? Because they didn't want old people, and they didn't want their old religion. That's what they said. They didn't want their old religion. They wanted new Israelis, quote unquote. New Jews that don't have any connection to Torah mitzvahs. And guess what? When you don't have connection to Torah mitzvahs, right, and use the connection to your land, right, then you have no future. This is one of the conclusion of an Arab terrorist, because he saw his jailer on Passover eating pita, eating bread. He said, it doesn't say in your Torah. Imagine getting getting rebuke from an Arab terrorist. Yeah, so it doesn't say in your Torah you're not allowed to eat bread. How can you eat bread? It's like, oh, that happened thousands of years ago. That was on Passover thousands of years ago. We're the new Jews, new Israelis, that. So this Arab terrorist, not a brain surgeon by any stretch. This Arab terrorist says any person, any nation has no connection to the land, so it's only a matter of time where they give it to us. That gave him more incentive to want to fight, because they have no connection to the land. Zero connection to the land. And a lot of Israelis have no connection to the land. That's why thousands leave every year. Why do they leave? They want an easier life. They want to make more money, right? They don't have to deal with the Arabs, right? And other things that go on here. So it's harder, much harder. Yeah. So in general, certainly in the States and other places, wherever they may be, they totally assimilated. They don't want anything to do with Judaism. Because of all the persecution they went through, they didn't want it. They didn't want all these quote-unquote old laws. And a lot of them assimilated out because, again, the 19th century and 20th century you had communism, socialism, democracy, destroyed tens of thousands. Tens of thousands. Brainwashed. That's why they assimilated out. Right? Even the ones that were more traditional came to the States, so some of them stayed really strong. Others totally assimilated out, wanted a better life, and they want to give a better life to their kids. What does that mean? More money. Give them more physical things. Okay, they want their kids to have a bar mitzvah. They really want them to marry Jewish, but okay, you can do what you can do. It's like I heard, someone told me a story. They said, yeah, my kid's into marriage. Okay, because it doesn't mean anything. Why doesn't it mean anything to them? They saw the grandparents. Grandparents were basically religious, but they couldn't pass it down for whatever reason. Yeah, well, they don't want any part of it. They want it. What's the main thing today? What do people want? Fun. Kind of hard to have a lot of fun in this world, right? There's just a lot of other things going on. But people want fun. They want to enjoy life. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't go back to all these old laws. I got actually a big thing coming up this week. My youngest son's gonna put on tefillin for the first time. Yeah, on I think with Thursday. We're gonna do it Thursday. So whatever, it's gonna bar mitzvah in a month and change. Coming up. Yeah, so that's that's a continuation. That's a huge thing. But don't think it was cheap. Tefillin gonna use the rest of his life. It's certainly not cheap, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to use it. It's going to use it every day, right? At least not on Shabbos or festivals, but, so you want it to last. You don't want to buy something cheap. Something cheap's not going to last, right? It's going to be, there's going to be a number of problems with them. I remember when I had to get new tefillin years ago, many, many years ago. The tefillin I had were totally no good. Whatever, but, at that time, I wish it cost the same as it was today. At the time, it was like $400 or $500, to get, get new tefillin. You're talking 30 years ago, more. 2, 10, 12, 35 years ago, right? Dating myself here with all my gray hair. But yeah, so $400, $500, I think that's not what it costs today, right? It's much more than that. But okay, that's the investment. Investment is, but it's going to use it. Right? It's going to use it. That's how you pass it down. That's how you pass it down. But they have to be educated. Start learning to go to synagogue and learning what it is. And that's how they start learning from a very young age. It's very hard when they're older. Very, very hard when they're older. Right? You start from a very young age. Right? Then, you got to pray for them. It's a very hard generation today. But, prayer doesn't speak to a lot of people. These things have to be worked on. But you got to train them anyway, right? You got to train them anyway. So you want to ask me why there's so many non-observant Jews? I don't care. They didn't have proper Jewish education. But that's only because their grandparents didn't want to teach them anything. They didn't want to have them be religious because religion gave them a bad taste in their mouth. All they did was get beaten up and made fun of, right, for being a Jew. So they wanted to lose their Judaism. They wanted to totally lose it. Makes sense. Right? So what did they give their kids? In the Golden of Medina in America, what did they give them? Money. They worked hard, want to make a lot of money. So that, do they want their kids to have a bar bat mitzvah? Sure. Let them at least feel Jewish. Let them enjoy whatever aspect of Judaism you give them. But don't give them too much. Heard that my whole life. Don't do too much. Don't be too fanatical. Don't, is it true or not true? Do I have to keep it or I don't have to keep it? Right? So today, that's not an issue. They just do what they want. Not a question whether it's true or not. Right? They just want to enjoy life, and that's it. It's all about desire, nothing more. Not about proof, and you have proof, you don't have proof. Let's have philosophical discussions. There's nobody out there. Very few people out there. Right? They want to enjoy life. Again, you were talking about my grandparents' generation, they were more traditional. Everyone's got, grandparents, or great-grandparents that were religious. Everyone was religious up until 250 years ago. Some more, some less. Then came all these pogroms. People spread out, went to different places. Yeah, they want to get away from persecution. Right, that's what America was founded from, that should be free from religious persecution. That's what the Puritans were and all that, right? So, that being the case, what happened when they came to the States? They assimilated, right? Essentially. They married Jews. Most of them married Jews, that generation, for sure. They married Jews, but then trickled down. Gave the kids, a basic Jewish education. Very basic Jewish education. Remember, when they came to America, Orthodoxy was dying. There weren't so many Orthodox Jews in America. And rebuilt from scratch. One of the few places that, that it wasn't there. They had to rebuild. It took years to rebuild. Years, decades, to have what we have today. Every other place already had a Jewish community set up and this and that. They came to America, it's like nothing there. There's an Orthodox Jews, for sure. In the 60s, thought it was going to die. You had all these other movements, so to speak. You had Reform, you had Conservative, they're all dying. They're all dying today. They're just also lacking burial, but they're going to die. Can't pass it down. The only group that's grown is Orthodox. They're the only group. Multiplying by leaps and bounds, sending kids to yeshiva, whatever. Well, that's the only thing that's surviving. Nothing else surviving. But everyone else wants fantasy. Why do they want fantasy? Because they got sucked into society. And they were never taught. Their parents never properly taught them. They never taught them. They never sent them to proper schools. Because they didn't want to. They wanted the kids to be secular like them. And that brainwashing? Sure. Sure, it's brainwashing. But that's what they wanted. You're going to say, but you want the same thing for your kid. You want your kids to be religious, right? Well, we believe it's the right way. That's the only way to be close to God, is by doing what we do. Whether we understand it more, less, doesn't matter. Right? That really doesn't matter. In their world, wants to be gay, let them be gay. Wants to be transgender, okay, each their own. Everyone makes decisions. Okay. Is it true? No, so what? It is, it isn't. Doesn't matter. So why are people secular? Because that's what they want. That's what they got. They weren't given anything. Anyone who came to America, they threw the tefillin overboard. They didn't want anything to do with Judaism. They had enough of persecution. That's exactly what happened. So generations later, it's a different story. Those generations were, beginning of the 20th century, they were more traditional. They know what Judaism was. My great-grandparents sure knew what Judaism was. They were, supposedly they were religious, okay. Right? But that you're talking that generation, it's a different thing. Because they saw it from their parents. And they saw it from their parents, okay. So you tell me assimilation already started before, even before they started leaving Europe, very good. Yeah, 80% intermarriage in Berlin, true. Yeah, and Russia was no great shakes either. A lot of intermarriage, a lot of assimilation, the communism and other things. But once they were able to get out, they're like, oh, we're free. We're free from being a Jew. I can do what I want. What was the worst thing that Napoleon did? He opened up the ghetto. That was the worst thing he could have done. He allowed the Jews to, to live amongst the population. What's the first thing they did? Assimilated and intermarried. Yeah, that's simple. I would say that's a simple, long answer. Well, anyone survive the time Hashem comes to judge the earth? Why not? Righteous people survive. For sure will survive. Yeah. How many righteous people are going to survive? That someone asked me last week. What do I have to do as a Noahide to survive? And the answer is, I don't know. You got to keep what the Noahide laws say. If you're holding by Torah mitzvahs, I would say you got a better chance to survive. You should have a very good chance to survive. Right? Yeah. What's the number look like? Remember one thing. Torah says always going to be a remnant of Jews. Doesn't say a lot. It says a remnant. Right now, they're what, 16, 17 million Jews right now? Something like that. How many Jews are observant? At least, keep Shabbos, keep kosher to a certain extent. So it's 10%, if that. Or as I said, what Rabbi Tauber said. Tauber, blessed memory, said, it's a cleansing process. Either you're going to be an Orthodox Jew, you'll disappear. Right? That's what's going to happen. Right? So how many are going to survive? Who's going to really survive? Anyone who has a connection to Torah mitzvahs hopefully should survive. Hopefully. But again, they're different levels. I'm not going to say no one's going to survive. You can have righteous people survive. Even people not so righteous hopefully should be able to survive if they're going in the right path. God's not going to just strike someone down and say, oh, kept Torah mitzvahs, tried, but he failed at this, failed at that, so I'm just going to wipe him out. Why would he do that? That's totally cruel. Not giving us a fair chance, so to speak. So I would say, if someone's on that path and they're going in the right direction, they should be safe. Is that a guarantee? Not a guarantee. Right? That's all we have. What do we need in this generation? You have to hold on to your emunah. Hold on to our belief and faith in God. That's what we're going to hold on to. That's 100% what we have to hold on to. Yeah, we're just going to keep plugging away. I had someone tell me, I mentioned this last week, I've done this, I've done that, and I'm still in the same situation, if not worse. My answer was, keep praying. Keep plugging away. That's what you got to do. Doesn't matter. The answer was no, and now it seems worse. Okay? Can God change anything? Shuvas Hashem terrifying. Can God change anything in the blink of an eyelash? Yes. But why is it so hard? I don't know. But but I've changed this and I've worked on that. You got to keep working. You got to keep plugging away no matter what happens. No matter how hard it is. Yeah. Again, that's a recipe for success in spiritual terms. Now, is that 100% guarantee? It's not 100% guarantee. Right? When God comes to judge, hopefully we're going in the right direction. Right? If we're going in the right direction, then we should be safe. If you're not going, I'm not saying where people make mistakes and do different things. God understands that. But if a person says, well, woe to me, whatever's going to be is going to be, that's it. Like, I know someone will say, if you put food in front of me, I'll just eat it. Well, that means you have no discipline. If at least we're trying, and we're trying to go in the right direction, then I would say a person's got a very good chance of being safe. What's the requirement of ceremony for marriage to Noahites? None. If you live together, if a non-Jew lives together, two non-Jews live together, that's considered marriage. What we would call in America, in some states, not all states, common law marriage. Right? You live together is considered common law marriage. Right? So for Noahites, do you have to go through a whole ceremony? Nope. If you want to get married according to the country you live in or whatever, to make it legal, can you do that? You can do it. Do you have to? No, but it's probably worthwhile to do so. Tax purposes and other reasons, probably. Right? But again, as a Noahide, you have an obligation to. No. You don't even have to go through any ceremony if you don't want to. If you want to, you say what you want. There's no, you want to say some blessings that, that you say. I don't know. I don't know if you, wouldn't necessarily say it's a good idea, but, you can say verses from Psalms, different things, different things from Tanakh. But again, is there a formal ceremony? It's not a formal ceremony. But again, you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, but you don't even have to go through a formal ceremony, right? That's the point. In divorce process, again, civil divorce, you don't even have to do that. But again, if you're married according to state, then you'd have to go through civil divorce. But if you got, according to, the Rambam and others, if you live together, it's considered marriage. If you walk out, it's considered divorce. So the famous actor, I don't know, 20 years ago, more, that lived with someone, had a few kids, and walked out. She claimed common law marriage. She wanted half his money. It's like no such thing. So, again, it depends on the state in America where you're going to have 100% common law marriage or not. Some states say yes, some not. I think if I remember correctly, She got something. She didn't get half his money though. She for sure didn't get half his money. So I would say that divorce over here again. If you're married according to state, then yeah, she get a legal divorce. But technically, do you have to get married according to state? No. Could you live together? That's considered marriage? Yes. What about divorce? So if you walk away, you split up, that's considered divorce. Yeah, let me see other questions here. Is worship of cats and dogs an Egyptian idea? Is it an Egyptian idea? I don't know. So think about that. I don't know where it comes from exactly. I'm sure it comes from somewhere. I'm sure some nation worship worship some of these things. Certainly in I'm sure other cultures, some animals, you see like by people that worship cows, right? They elevated the cow. I don't know exactly what the properties of a cow are, but the cows are pretty stupid animals in general. But they say that it's fun if you're plastered, to go cow tipping. Cow sleeps, I think, standing up. So like, if you push it over, it can't get up. Well, it's kind of silly, I think. I mean, again, I guess if you're drunk and you're plastered, so I guess it's a lot more fun. But from what I understand, cows not the brightest animal. So why exactly they worship them, I don't know. They can come and hammer me and say, I don't know what I'm talking about and this and that. Yeah. But again, dogs and cats, I don't know. Other animals worship? I don't know. Why did Jews leave Israel? They were thrown out. They didn't leave by choice. You have to remember that the Babylonians, when they came, and it's where a miracle that Jewish people even survived. They butchered tens of thousands of Jews, right? You have that at the destruction of the temple, which we mourn every year on the fast of the 9th of Av. But they didn't go willingly. They weren't interested in leaving. They got slaughtered, and they got thrown out. Right? They got thrown out, and then they came back, and then after that, they got thrown out again. They got thrown out again, and were never let back in, except since 1948. But been in exile ever since. So it wasn't by choice. It wasn't by choice they got thrown out. God spit them out. Right? That's exactly what the Torah says. If you don't do what I say, God says, I will spit you out of the land. So in Kaufman's language, chump don't want it, chump don't get it. You lose the land, you lose the land. Right? You got to do what God says. But they're not leaving by choice. Trust me. They don't leave by choice. They got slaughtered. They got slaughtered and were sent out of the country against their will. Someone says, I was reading the book of Ruth, people disconnected to their land. Yeah, I can think about it. I'll speak about that later. But think about it, that, Elimelech, has a lot of money, and there was a famine. So people like breaking down his door for money and for food. And he left. He went to Moab, of all places. He went to like Timbuktu. His kids intermarried and he died. Then his kids died. Yeah. So one simple thing, like I said, I'm going to speak about that later, my conversion class, but the bottom line is you can't shirk responsibility. You got an opportunity to help people, even though they're bothering you, asking for money and for food and all that. Well, guess what? You get an obligation to help them. And look what happened. Look what happened. His kids, he went to Moab, went in the middle of nowhere. No one to marry, no one to be around. So his kids found Moabite women. Found Moabite women. They died. His kids died. He died. He lost everything. Totally lost everything. So you're talking about this aristocratic family. Yeah, they lost everything. Totally lost everything. Yeah, but we're gonna go through more of that later. Why is it so expensive to live in Israel? It's to keep Jews out. It's expensive everywhere. The joke is that you want to make $1 million in Israel, you bring 2 million with you, right? Why is it more difficult here? More difficult because people don't make as much money. Which why the tax authorities are always checking out people, because they know people are hiding money. Because because tax bracket's so high. They're not keeping people out per se. People don't want to come. That's the truth. Even people have a lot of money or whatever, they still don't want to come. It's just, it's a hard place to live. One second. So the question was, why is it so expensive? Go to any Jewish community. You're going to find out the closer you get to a synagogue, exponentially the price goes up. Yeah, kosher food is also very expensive. So a lot of things, between America and Israel, let's say America in general, that there are things that offset. A lot of people here don't have cars. Yeah, and gas, by the way, is like $10 a gallon or $8 a gallon here, which is like double, triple the price in most places. It's where gas comes from. But again, health insurance is relatively cheap. Sending your kids to school is relatively cheap, right? Compared to outside of Israel. So there are things that offset. Rent's probably about the same. Food probably, equal, give or take. So there are things that offset, but yeah, it's expensive everywhere. It's not just here. It's definitely not just here. This is to keep Jews out. I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth. Most people don't want to come here because they don't want to come here. Because they claim it's too hard to live here, different things. I'm not saying they have an obligation to stay where they are. There are parents there or, other things keeping them there. They don't want to come. Right? So people are keeping themselves away when they don't have, I'm saying where they don't have an excuse. If they have an excuse, it's one thing. Yeah, if they have a good excuse. If they don't have a good excuse, then why aren't they coming here? What's a simple answer? Right? What's a simple answer? Because they don't want to come. Not interested in coming. My daughter was just there. One of my daughters was just there for Passover. In a very, very religious neighborhood. And said, talking to people, and it's people very, very, very religious, and they have no desire to come. They have no interest to come. I'm not saying they have any issue to stay there, but they certainly have no desire to come. Why don't they have a desire to come? Why don't they have? They don't want. They're living the life of Riley. Even if they're struggling there, it's bigger house. It's a lot easier there. In many ways. I mean, you need a lot more money to live. Okay. But it's an easier lifestyle, much easier lifestyle, right? No question. Not a question of God making it hard. People want to come, they can come, right? Plenty of place to live, I think in many ways more expensive in the States to live, much more expensive. Yeah, especially with tuition. If you have kids and you put 4 or 5 kids in the system or more, you're paying almost college tuition. I mean, most of your money is going towards tuition, food, a car and a mortgage or a rent. You don't have money left over. Unless you're making a lot of money. You don't have money left over. Right? So, but it's very convenient. So it's an easier lifestyle. Yeah, I think it's expensive in a lot of ways that you don't have here. But why are people there for the amenities? For the amenities. Bigger house, everyone has a car, this, that, but I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you what the big difference is. Big difference is most people here are struggling. Yeah. Some better, some worse. Right? But that's the way it is. In the States, it's a very, very big difference between the people that have and people don't. And the people who don't feel like they're worthless because they don't have money. Right? We're not talking poverty stricken. I'm just saying people don't have money. The difference between people who have and people who don't have is huge. Huge. Here, everyone's in the same boat. Right? Some better, some worse, but everyone's in the same boat. And even someone that has a lot of money, okay, it's only so far it goes there and what you can do with it. But in the States, it's a lot easier. So, in so many ways. But you need a lot more money to live, for sure. Right? There's no question. But again, what's the bottom line? I'm not saying where a person doesn't have an excuse to come. What's the bottom line? It's convenience. It's a lot of convenience there. A lot of convenience there. Life much, much easier. Yeah. Now, someone asked the $1 million question. I knew it was coming. Why doesn't God get rid of all the missionaries? Thank you very much. Good question. Good question. What's the answer? What's the simple answer? I'll tell you the truth. It's a lot easier to have a missionary come, and come missionize. But if you want to try and bring Jews back to Torah, they ban you. College campuses, other things. Yeah. You got missionaries running all over the place here. Like cockroaches. They don't want, they let them come. Secular government lets them come. Yeah. They're hoping they'll offset us. They'll offset the outdoor Orthodox. Why do they come? Why doesn't God stop it? It's a good question. That's a good question. Right? And, I would say the simple answer is because we're not doing enough to keep them out. We, Orthodox Jews, aren't doing enough. I'm not saying complain to the government and telling them this. If we would do what we're supposed to do, none of these problems would happen. Messiah would already come. We'd be playing our banjo, singing Kumbaya. Everything would be great. But it's not the case. Why isn't it the case? Right? What's the bottom line? Why isn't it the case? Because we're not doing enough. If we would do what we're supposed to do, everything would be good. Right? It says that in the Torah, pretty clear. You don't do what you're supposed to do, there'll be payback. And there'll be a thorn in your side. Right? There's a bigger question. I've asked this question. I don't necessarily have a good answer. And that is, you talk about JC in general, why did so many Jews die in his name? Out of all people. Whether he existed, he didn't exist, whatever, I'm not even going to go through that. Right? Why in his name, or in the name of Christians, why so many Jews have to die? Now, it could be, if his Rebbe was really, Rebbe should have been prayed the, if that's really the case, and he pushed him away, and then when he wanted to come back and repent, it didn't take him because he couldn't, because he's in the middle of saying the Shema and he went off. So he should have drawn him closer. Because he didn't draw him so close, God said, okay, I'm gonna do something with this guy because look what happened. Right? Measure for measure. Or you have someone like, by the name of Leonid Trotsky. Trotsky went to Cheder, went to a Jewish school, got thrown out of a Jewish school. Chofetz Chaim says, you threw him out of school, you should have found him a place to go. Even if he's causing problems, find him another place to go. Because you don't know what the repercussions are. Look what happened to Trotsky. Started communism. Yeah. Yeah, this is a serious message. If we don't treat people the way we need to treat them, even if they're causing problems in a school, you got to find a place for them or whatever. But you don't want them to start a whole movement that's going to kill tens of thousands, millions of people. And that's what he did. That's essentially what he did. Nice Jewish boy, Trotsky. Yeah. So, whatever JC did to deserve, whatever he got, but the fact so many people died in his name, something happened. Something seriously happened in God's eyes that says, okay, you did this to him for whatever. Yeah, and he didn't deserve what he got, so I'm going to punish you through him and through his disciple. Again, I'm not saying that's the reason. Could be a reason, right? We'll throw that out there. Could be a reason. Is it hard to be outside? One second. In Israel, covered modestly when it's hot. Listen, Orthodox Jews are visible. We're visible all over the place. Now, secular Jews. I wouldn't say all secular Jews hate Orthodox Jews. Some do, right? But they never come really in contact with Orthodox Jews. But, we're targets like anyone else. Will some people make comments the way, maybe a person's dressed? Maybe, sometimes. Maybe. Right? Even if it's so hot, so what? Dress the way we need to dress. Is it hard to walk around when, to be modest? No. Plenty of religious areas, but, if you're in a secular area, so what? You have to be somewhere. I have to be somewhere tomorrow and then whatever, it's going to be in a secular area, but do what you got to do. You're not persecuted for it. It's not like, people beating you up or whatever because you're dressed the way you are. Right? That's certainly not here. They may not like you. They may snicker. They may look at you, but, not a problem. Not a problem to, dress the way we need to dress. Right. JC said that about the innkeeper's wife that wasn't proper. Right. And then he got chastised or whatever. Right. I'm saying, I don't know if that's the reason. I'm just saying, because he didn't accept him in the end, even though he could have, but he was in the middle of saying the Shema. So he went off and did what he did. Now, again, is that the only reason? I don't know if it's the only reason. Definitely a potential reason, for sure. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the book of Leviticus, ethics of our fathers, controversial issues, Torah portion of the week. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN at gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the